Hello, welcome to Z-Talk. In the previous video, we were able to deploy a Helm chart from the hub and customize the chart folder for our use case, right? In this video, I'm going to explain more in detail about the chart templates. So how do we build our own chart from scratch? For doing that, we needed to understand some basics about templates. All right, let's get it started. To answer the first question about how do we create a Helm chart from scratch, the command I wanted to introduce is helm create and followed by the name of the chart they wanted to build. After you issue these commands, Helm CLI will automatically create a generic framework of the chart for you. The structure looks quite similar with the Grafana chart that I used for my demo in the previous video, right? Let me explain again what each of the files or folders for. So you should be able to see two files and two folders being created after issued helm create command. The first file, chart.yaml, it's a YAML file that contains the metadata about the chart, like version, dependencies, something like that. And values.yaml, which I believe you are already familiar with, is the file that contains all default values for each of templates files in the templates folder, right? And templates is a directory of templates. Again, when each template in the template folder combined with values in the values.yaml file, it will generate valid Kubernetes manifest file, right? And last but not least, charts. Charts is another directory that contains any charts upon which these charts depends, right? So let me jump to my terminal and test it out real quick by issuing helm create, and let's name our first chart as demo. All right, let's go to this chart and you can see the files and folders were created automatically, right? So let's go into the templates folder and you can see there are a bunch of templates being created automatically already. So generally the idea of Helm is to break the definition and assignment off to separate files so that we can reuse the common configurations. Right? What these templates do is to tokenize the value in each key value pair so that we can define values in the values.yaml based on different scenarios and pass them back to the templates to generate the Kubernetes manifest. Imagine we needed to create a deployment for an application to different environments like dev and prod. So we don't have to change the template at all after it's created because the configuration is same. The differences are actually the values that will be passed to the templates based on the specific requirement for each environment, right? So let's take a look service as example, and you can see in the values of each key value pairs there are these kind of syntax. So that's basically what I'm gonna walk you through shortly to explain how do we write these kind of syntax to parse the values in the values.yaml file. All right. Okay, now it's time to jump to the demo. So I will walk you through in detail about the syntax in the templates over this demo. Please thumb up my video and subscribe my channel, and feel free to leave comments. Cool. All right, to start everything from scratch, I just deleted all of those templates file that were created automatically after I issue helm create command, along with the default values.yaml file. All right, let's start with something really simple by creating a template for a config map. For doing that, I already prepared a regular config map configuration like this, and it's pretty simple. I only introduced 3 key value pairs inside of metadata and data accordingly. And as you can see, the name of this config map is following this naming convention. It starts with the release name. I'm gonna use test as the release name, and followed by the type of this configuration, which is config map, right? And then followed by the environment. So it tells you these config map is for production environment, all right? Next, namespace. So apparently these config map will be deployed to a namespace called demo. Last but not least, the key value pairs inside of data. So I just assign a string welcome to ZTalk to my value key. All right. So to convert this config map to a template, I needed to introduce you a little bit about the template language. Let's start with a couple of most commonly used built-in objects. All right. So let's jump to my browser, and here's the Helm documentation. Firstly, these gonna be the built-in objects. All right. So firstly, get familiar with these type of syntax. So everything will be inside of a double curly braces, and it's something like dot release the name. So the first built-in objects is called release. Release is in this object describe the release itself, and it has several objects inside of it, like release the name, release the namespace, etc. Apparently, release name just the release name, right? The namespace is the namespace to be released into. All right. The next objects is called values, and values pass into the template from the values.yaml file and from user supply files. All right. So back here, so follow this syntax. Basically, the template directive dot release the name injects the release name into the template, and the values that are passed into a template can be thought of as namespace objects, where a dot separates each namespace element, right? So the leading dot before release object indicates that we start with the topmost namespace for this scope. All right, so I think it's good enough as of now. So let's quickly jump back to our Visual Studio Code and convert these config map to a template. So what again I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna replace like this. All right, so I just converted the values as the template language. So as you can see, we talk about release object and value object. So here, inside of the values.yaml file, I have to add 2 key value pairs, env and my value, so that it's able to identify the value and pass it back to the config map template. All right, so save it and jump back to values.yaml file. Here I defined 2 key value pairs, env and my value. So the environment will be for prod, and my value, I just assigned the string welcome to ZTalk. All right, so we're ready to deploy this chart to our Kubernetes cluster. So as we discussed, these chart or these config map will be deployed to a namespace called demo. So let's see if the namespace was there yet. kubectl get namespace. Here we go. The demo namespace already in place. Now we're good to deploy. as you remember, the command will be helm install, and the release name will be test as we define in our configuration, right? And gonna include the repository of the chart demo, right? I'm gonna deploy these charts to demo namespace. All right, hit enter. Cool. And you can see the status is deployed, so we're good. Let's verify by issue helm ls demo, and you can see the release was there. So the name of the release is test and is installed under demo namespace. Looks good. Let's take a look the config map, and kubectl get config map under demo. Here we go. The name of this config map follows our naming convention, right? It starts with the release name and the type of the configuration, which is config map, and followed by the environment. It's for prod. Cool. We can also grab the manifest by issue helm get manifest. Release name. All right, helm get manifest. Release name will be test. All right, and here it lists out the manifest. That was basically is like the configuration inside the values, that YAML file, and the is passed back to the templates. And you see here the values are replaced with the value we define. All right, looks good. Now we knew how do we read values for templates. All right, let me show you how do we set values to templates so that we can override the default configurations with our customization. To test it out, how about let's change the environment from prod to dev, and also change the my value from welcome to ZTalk to hello world. All right, so let's quickly jump to the terminal and issue helm install. I'm still gonna tell the release test and include the repository here, and after that I'm gonna add a argument called -set, and we're gonna override the default value by introduce the env, and env will be dev in this case, and also set another key value pair map value equal to hello world. All right, I'm gonna again deploy these chart to demo namespace. Hit enter. All right, so as you can see, helm ls demo, and the deployment was successful. It shows deployed, and let's take a look the config map this time. Helm get manifest. The release name was test demo. All right, and you can see the manifest this time is called test config map dev, right? And the data the value changed to hello world. Cool. All right. Next, to get things more interesting, let me talk about template functions. Functions are able to manipulate values, basically. The first function I want to introduce is called quote. This quote function is going to take one argument and it's going to quote that specific value that is being read from the values.yaml file. All right. To prove my point, I added a couple of additional key value pairs to the values.yaml right here, like infra, and inside of infra, it's another key value pair, availability zones and region. All right. So jump back to the config map. So how do we configure the template to be able to collect the right value out of the values.yaml file? So that's where quote function comes into the picture. For doing that, so I will do quote, and I'm gonna quote values dot infra dot availability zones. Same thing for region. I'm gonna quote dot values dot infra dot region. All right, that's pretty much it. So we can actually test it out without actually deploy these change to our Kubernetes cluster for testing purpose, right? It's called dry run. So it's one of the most commonly used CLI command to test out things before we really doing a release, right? So it's pretty simple. So let me jump to my terminal, and here let's do Helm install. Helm, this time we're gonna do a dry run. So by adding additional arguments, so debug and dry run, right? And the release name is still gonna be test and include the repository and namespace demo. Hit enter. All right, and you can see the manifest is gonna be look like this: the region US West and availability zone ABC, right? Basically, the codes function grab the values out of these availability zones and region key value pairs. All right. Also, again, because it was the dry run, it was not a real release, right? So if we issue Helm get manifest to take a look, we'll still see the old manifest, right? Where the new key value pairs was not introduced here, right? Cool. Okay, going forward, I can't introduce you all of the functions because there are too many out there. And as we know, Helm client and library are written by Go language. So there is a number of predefined functions available as part of the Go templates that can be accessed from this URL. Also, Helm supports the functions defined within Spec library, which contains a bunch of useful template functions for Go templates. So feel free to take a look the functions based on your needs or use case, and I will share these two URLs in the description of my video. Going forward, I will explain if we run into new functions or we need to use new functions in my example, but it's really depends on you to use. So to use this URL as a library to search for the right functions as per you need for your project. All right. Next, let's understand about pipeline and default values. Along with functions, the pipeline will be used more frequently to manipulate values. For example, I may want to convert a particular string into an uppercase and then do further processing by adding double quotes. The pipeline concept comes from Linux world, so let me show you two examples real quick. So back to my values.yaml file, and as you can see, I added a new key value pairs, portfolio, and the portfolio is ecom. So I want to add these new key value pairs to my ConfigMap templates. And to follow my naming convention, I want to convert these ecom string to uppercase as my standard. So how are we going to do that? Let me show you real quick. So jump back to my template, and I will add another key value pairs under data. And like the previous example, I'm gonna grab the value from the values.yaml file. So I'm gonna use that built-in object dot values dot portfolio. All right, and then I want to convert the string to uppercase. For doing that, I'm gonna pipe the result and to call a function called upper. So what this function does is to convert the string to uppercase. All right, and then I'm gonna pipe again to the quote function to show the value. All right. And another example, I want to add another key value pairs. I want to add a timestamp to show the time when the namespace was deployed. All right. For doing that, I'll add another key value pairs inside of data timestamp. And to get the time, I'm gonna use now function, and after that, I'm gonna pipe it to date to do some formatting. For your reference, you can go to Sprite library and take a look at these date functions, and here it lists out all the more in detail. All right, so I'm gonna use these formats for my case, and I just copy these formats and put over here, and then I'm gonna pipe to quote function. All right, let's do another dry run to test if it works. Helm create debug dry run. The release name was test. Chart location under demo. Helm install debug dry run test demo. All right, hit enter. Okay, let's take a look at the manifest. Here, as you can see, inside of data, you can see the portfolio key value pairs, the value of ecom was converted to all uppercase here, right? And timestamp is followed the date formats like what we define right here. Cool. What's next? Okay, whenever we do manipulation, right, we may not get the value or is not available from the place where we manipulate the value. So in that case, we need to provide some default values so that it can be replaced. I'll show you an example. Back to my Visual Studio Code, and inside of the template, I will add another key value pairs right here. Let's call it vendor, and I will quote from the values.yaml file, like region above, infra.vendor. But actually, I won't put in the value, the key value pairs inside of values.yaml file, just for my testing purpose, right? So in that case, it's gonna return an error because it's not able to identify that value from the values.yaml file, right? For fixing that, I can do a pipe and put some default value by using default, and let's give a default value for these key value pairs like Azure. All right, and then quote. Let's verify. So firstly, let me take this default out to see what it returns. Let's save it, and as you can see, there's the output. It says missing value at path values infra vendor in file ConfigMap, template ConfigMap right here. Okay, so let's add it back. Save that again. All right, so looks good. Let's jump to my terminal and do a dry run. Here we go. You see the vendor, and you use the default value, which was not defined in the values.yaml file. Azure. All right, cool. All right, the last key point before I call it today, like other programming language, the flow control functionality is also available for templates. Here I write it down the syntax of an if-else flow control. So follow these syntax. Let me show you an example real quick. Let me jump to my Visual Studio Code, and inside of the ConfigMap templates, I want to add a flow control section under region key value pairs. So basically, I'm gonna do some logic for these key value pair. So if the region equals to US West, I'm gonna add another key value pairs high availability and make the value as true. Otherwise, if the region equals to something else, it will be false. All right. For doing that, I will follow the syntax shown in my slide, and I'll do if equal dot values dot infra dot region equal to US West, gonna create a new key value pass HA as high availability, and the value will be true. Otherwise, else the value will be false. That's the end. All right, let's test it out by running another dry run. And here, as you can see in the values.yaml, the value for region, these key value pairs, the value is US West. So what I'm expected to be in the manifest, the new key value pair HA will be true, right? So let's save it and jump to my terminal and issue a dry run. Here we go, and you can see the new key value pairs HA and the value is true. All right, let's jump to Visual Studio Code again, and this time let's change the region from US West to something else like US East and see how it goes. Save it and jump back to terminal, issue another dry run. Here we go, and as you can see, the HA key value pairs turn to false. All right, that's exactly what we're looking for, right? So as you noticed, there are blank lines in between, which looks annoying, right? So to remove those blank lines, definitely we can do that. So jump back to Visual Studio Code. All you need to do, just need to add a minus symbol. Here. And let's save it, test it out. Okay, cool. As you can see that those two blank lines were removed, right? Remember, use these minus symbol to remove the blank line. All right. And another thing to pay attention to is the indentation. So make sure the indentations follow the others parameters like regions. Otherwise, if you do something like this, you will get an error. Let's save it and do a dry run again. And as you can see, there's an error pop-up, YAML parse error. So that's because the indentation messed it up. So the indentation has to be in the same level as region, because or let's try something like this to see if it works. Do another dry run. Again, it still pop up an error. It shows the YAML parse error, right? So here, you know the importance of to keep the indentation in line with other configuration inside of the templates, right? So let me move back here in the same indentation as others. So save that again, and all right, all good. Cool. All right, this is pretty much what I want to share in this session. We've gone through a lot of details about how do we create our templates. So please try it out on your side with your own use cases and at least get familiarized with the syntax. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Alright, thank you for watching my video. If you think this video is helpful, you're more than welcome to leave any comments. Remember, thumb up, subscribe my video, and also hit the notification bell. See you next time.